Ethan Carter opened his eyes to complete darkness. His head throbbed, and his body felt heavy. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then it all came rushing back. The mission, the alien crew, and the betrayal. They had left him behind, alone. The alien station creaked around him, its broken systems groaning like an old ship lost at sea. Ethan reached for his wrist communicator, but it was dead. His heart sank. Without it, he couldn't call for help. He was stranded in a place far from Earth, with no one to rely on but himself. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the rising panic. Ethan was an engineer, one of the best. He had fixed things no one else could. If he could repair the station, maybe he could survive long enough to figure out a way home. But first, he needed light. Ethan fumbled around until his fingers brushed against a control panel. He pressed a few buttons, but nothing happened. The power was out. Figures, he muttered to himself. He patted his tool belt and found his flashlight. Clicking it on, he shined the beam around the room. The space was a mess. Wires hung from the ceiling like jungle vines, and broken panels sparked faintly. Dust floated in the air, and the floor was littered with debris. Ethan's stomach twisted. This wasn't just an abandoned station. It was falling apart. He spotted a toolbox on the floor and knelt to open it. Inside, he found a few tools and some spare parts. Not much, but it was a start. Ethan's mind began to work. First, he needed to find the main power source. If he could get the lights back on, he'd have a better chance of seeing what he was up against. As he moved through the station, the silence was deafening. Every step he took echoed in the empty halls. The flashlight beam revealed more damage. Cracked walls, shattered screens, and strange alien writing on the surfaces. He couldn't read the symbols, but they looked like warnings. Ethan's flashlight flickered, and he smacked it against his hand to keep it working. "Come on, don't die on me now," he said. He turned a corner and froze. Ahead, a large metal door blocked his path. A control panel next to it blinked faintly, its power barely hanging on. He examined the panel, pulling off the cover to look inside. The circuits were fried, but he could see a way to bypass them. He pulled out his tools and got to work, his hands moving quickly despite the cold sweat on his forehead. Sparks flew as he connected wires and replaced damaged components. After a few tense minutes, the panel lit up with a steady glow. The door creaked and groaned as it slid open. Beyond it was a massive room filled with alien machinery. In the center stood a tall, humming device that pulsed with faint light. Ethan's breath caught. This had to be the main power core. He approached cautiously, scanning the machine. It was unlike anything he'd seen before, but he could understand the basics. The core was running on emergency power, barely keeping the station alive. If he didn't fix it soon, the whole place could collapse. Ethan opened a panel on the core and began his work. It was delicate, intricate, and one wrong move could overload the system. As he tightened a connection, he felt a strange vibration in the floor. He stopped and listened. A low growl echoed through the room. His heart raced. He wasn't alone. Ethan quickly finished the repair and stepped back. The core began to hum louder, and the lights flickered on throughout the station. He felt a brief moment of relief. At least he wasn't working in the dark anymore. Then he heard it again. The growl. This time, it was closer. Ethan grabbed a metal rod from his tool belt and held it tightly. His eyes scanned the shadows, but nothing moved. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself. "Fix the station. Get out of here." He backed out of the room, keeping his eyes on the dark corners. The station was alive now, but so was something else. Ethan knew he had to work fast. Survival wasn't just about fixing the station anymore. It was about staying one step ahead of whatever was hunting him. As he moved to the next section of the station, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Ethan Carter was an engineer, not a fighter. But if he wanted to live, he'd have to become both. Ethan Carter leaned against the wall, his breathing uneven. The low growl he had heard earlier still echoed in his mind. Whatever was out there, it wasn't friendly. But Ethan knew he couldn't stop now. The station was huge, and there was still so much to fix. He glanced back at the powered-up core room. For the first time since being abandoned, the lights above him glowed faintly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The hum of the machinery felt like a small victory, a spark of hope in an otherwise hopeless situation. "All right, Carter," he muttered to himself. One step at a time, Ethan pulled out his makeshift map. He had sketched it on a piece of scrap material he'd found earlier. It wasn't perfect, but it helped him navigate the confusing alien layout. His next goal was clear: the station's main control room. If he could restore full power, he might get the station's defense systems working. And maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to send a distress signal back to Earth. He gripped his flashlight tightly and moved cautiously down the hallway. The station's walls were marked with strange alien symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. Ethan's eyes darted to every shadow, his mind replaying the growl he had heard. The silence between his footsteps was heavy, broken only by the occasional hiss of steam escaping from a broken pipe. After a few minutes, Ethan reached a large door. Its surface was smooth and reflective, like polished metal. A control panel blinked weakly beside it, and Ethan's engineer instincts kicked in. He knelt down, prying open the panel to inspect the circuitry. "Looks simple enough," he whispered. The wires inside were a mess, but Ethan could see how to reroute power to open the door. He worked quickly, using his tools to reconnect wires and replace burnt-out components. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he concentrated. With a spark and a hum, the control panel lit up fully. The door groaned as it slid open, revealing a massive room filled with consoles and screens. This had to be the control room. Ethan stepped inside, his flashlight sweeping across the space. The room was a mix of chaos and beauty. Some screens were shattered, their alien symbols flickering erratically, while others displayed complex data streams that Ethan couldn't understand. In the center of the room was a raised platform with a large console. It looked like the heart of the station's operations. Ethan approached the console, his fingers hovering over the strange alien keys. He hesitated. What if pressing the wrong button made things worse? But he didn't have a choice. He needed to take the risk. He pressed a few keys, and the console sprang to life. A deep, mechanical voice echoed through the room, speaking in an alien language Ethan couldn't understand. He flinched, half expecting an alarm to go off. But nothing happened. Instead, a holographic screen appeared in front of him, displaying a series of symbols and diagrams. Ethan frowned. "I need a translator," he muttered. As if responding to his words, the console screen shifted, and a robotic voice spoke in broken English. "Human detected. Access granted. Welcome." Ethan blinked in surprise. "Well, that's convenient," he said. He quickly scanned the options on the screen. There were controls for power distribution, environmental systems, and defense protocols. That last one caught his attention. He selected the Defense Systems tab, but the screen displayed a red warning. The system was offline, damaged during the station's abandonment. Ethan sighed in frustration. Fixing it would take more time and parts he didn't have. Before he could think further, the holographic screen flickered, and a new voice spoke. This one was different, smoother, and more human-like. "You shouldn't be here." Ethan froze. "Who said that?" he demanded, looking around the empty room. The holographic screen shifted again, and a figure appeared. It was a humanoid shape made of glowing light, its face featureless. "I am Vera," the figure said. "This station is not safe for you." Ethan stared at the figure, his mind racing. "Are you?" "And I?" "Yes," Vera replied. "I was created to manage this station, but I was deactivated when the creators abandoned it. They did not want me to interfere." Ethan's instincts told him to be cautious, but he also knew he needed help. "Can you help me repair the station?" he asked. Vera hesitated. "Perhaps, But if we reactivate the systems, it will draw attention. Others will come. Dangerous ones. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of others? The kind that left you here to die, Vara said. Ethan tightened his grip on his tool belt. He didn't have a choice. I don't care, he said firmly. If I don't fix this station, I won't survive anyway. Vara was silent for a moment, then nodded. Very well. I will assist you. But be warned. The path ahead will not be easy. Ethan took a deep breath. Nothing worth doing ever is. Ethan Carter stood in the dimly lit control room, his eyes fixed on Vera's glowing, featureless figure. The AI's voice echoed through the chamber, calm but unsettling. You've activated systems that should remain offline, Vara said. This station's power will draw attention from dangerous beings. Ethan crossed his arms, trying to look confident even as unease churned in his gut. I didn't have a choice. I'm not going to sit around and wait to die here. Vera's form flickered for a moment, then steadied. Your actions are logical, but you're reckless. I will help you. However, you must follow my guidance if we're to succeed. Ethan narrowed his eyes. And why should I trust you? For all I know, you could be part of the reason I was abandoned here. Trust is unnecessary, Vara replied, tilting its head slightly. We share a mutual goal, survival. Without my help, your chances are low. Ethan hated to admit it, but Vara was right. The station was alien, its systems far more advanced than anything he'd worked on before. His own knowledge would only take him so far. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. All right, he said, but if I even think you're leading me into a trap, I'll shut you down. Understood, Vara said, its voice as even as ever. Let us begin. The holographic figure disappeared, replaced by a map of the station on the central console. Sections of it glowed in different colors, highlighting damaged areas and critical systems. Ethan leaned in, studying the display. We need to stabilize the life support system next, Vara explained. Oxygen levels are low in several sectors, and temperature controls are failing. Ethan nodded. Life support it is. Lead the way. As Vara guided him through the station, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The growl he'd heard earlier still haunted him, and the shadows seemed to move whenever he wasn't looking. He tightened his grip on the metal rod he carried for protection. The AI's voice echoed in his earpiece. Turn left at the next junction. Ethan followed the instructions, stepping into a large chamber filled with tangled pipes and vents. A cluster of machines hummed faintly in the corner, their lights flickering. This is the main hub for life support, Vara said. Several components are damaged. Repairs must be completed quickly to avoid further system failures. Ethan approached the machinery, pulling out his tools. All right, tell me what I'm looking at. Vera's voice grew more precise. The primary coolant pump is offline. Several filters are clogged, and power lines have been severed. Ethan set to work, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. He replaced the damaged power lines first, sparks flying as he connected the circuits. Then he turned his attention to the filters, pulling them out and cleaning the thick sludge that had built up inside. The air in the chamber smelled metallic and stale, but he ignored it, focusing on the task. As he worked, Vera's voice broke through his concentration. Ethan, we are not alone. Ethan froze. What do you mean? A hostile entity is approaching this chamber, Vara said. It is attracted to movement and sound. Ethan's heart pounded. He grabbed his rod and scanned the shadows. The faint hum of the machines seemed louder now, almost deafening. Then he heard it. A low, guttural growl coming from the hallway he had just entered. What do I do? He whispered. Stay still, Vara instructed. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Ethan pressed himself against the machinery, holding his breath. The growl grew louder, and a dark shape emerged in the doorway. It was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall, with sharp claws and glowing red eyes. Its movements were slow and deliberate, as if it were hunting. Ethan's grip on the rod tightened. The creature sniffed the air, its head turning toward him. For a moment, he thought it had spotted him. Then, suddenly, Vera's voice echoed through the chamber. "Over here." The creature whipped around, charging toward the source of the sound. Ethan realized Vera had redirected the noise to a different part of the room. The distraction worked. The creature moved away, giving Ethan a chance to slip out of the chamber and into the next hallway. His heart raced as he ran, Vera guiding him through the maze-like corridors. When he finally stopped, he leaned against a wall, gasping for air. "What was that thing?" he asked. "One of the station's original inhabitants," Vera replied. "They are territorial and hostile to intruders." Ethan shook his head. "Great. More things trying to kill me." "You survived," Vera said. "And the life support system is now operational. Your chances of survival have increased." Ethan couldn't help but let out a small laugh, though it was more out of exhaustion than humor. "Yeah, well, I'll take any chance I can get." Ethan Carter sat cross-legged on the cold metallic floor of the maintenance bay, surrounded by alien tools, wires, and broken components. His hands were covered in grease, and sweat dripped from his brow as he stared at the intricate device before him. It was alien technology, far more advanced than anything he had seen on Earth, but that didn't deter him. If there was one thing Ethan knew, it was how to fix things. Vera's holographic figure appeared beside him, its glowing form casting faint light on the scattered tools. "You're attempting to repair the defense system interface," Vera said, its tone neutral. "A challenging task, even for my creators." Ethan smirked without looking up. "Well, I don't have much of a choice, do I? If those creatures come back, I'd rather have some protection." Vera tilted its head. "Your confidence is intriguing. I will monitor your progress and provide guidance if necessary." "Thanks, but I've got this," Ethan replied, though he appreciated having Vera's knowledge as a backup. The device in front of him was part of the station's automated turret system. If he could get it working, it would give him a fighting chance against the hostile creatures roaming the station. The problem was that the system was almost entirely destroyed. The circuits were fried, and several key components were missing. Ethan rummaged through the pile of alien scrap he had collected earlier. Most of it was unrecognizable, but he had already started to identify patterns in the design. The aliens who built this station had used a modular approach, making it possible to repurpose parts from one system to fix another. "If this works," Ethan muttered, holding up a curved piece of metal, "you can call me a genius." He began connecting wires, bridging gaps in the circuit board with makeshift conductors. His hands moved with practiced precision, every motion deliberate. Years of experience as an engineer back on Earth had trained him for moments like this. The tools might be alien, and the technology unfamiliar, but the principles of mechanics and electricity were universal. "The main capacitor is unstable," Vera pointed out. "It could overload and damage the entire system." Ethan paused, examining the capacitor. Vera was right. It was cracked, leaking a faint glow of energy. He needed a replacement, but there was nothing suitable in his pile of parts. Then an idea struck him. "Vera, what about the core stabilizer from that broken drone we found earlier?" Ethan asked. "It could work," Vera admitted, "but the energy output would need to be carefully regulated." Ethan grinned. "Regulating energy is my specialty." He retrieved the stabilizer and carefully installed it in place of the damaged capacitor. It wasn't a perfect fit, but it held. Next, he adjusted the power settings, using the alien console beside him to recalibrate the system. The holographic display lit up with streams of alien text, which Vera helpfully translated into rough English. "Power levels stabilized," Vera reported. "The turret system is operational." Ethan sat back, wiping his hands on his already dirty jumpsuit. "Operational doesn't mean it'll work in a fight," he said. "We need to test it." "Testing will attract attention," Vera warned. "Better to know now than when it's too late," Ethan replied. He activated the turret, and it whirred to life, swiveling on its base. The barrel glowed faintly, ready to fire. Ethan grabbed a piece of scrap metal and tossed it into the room. The turret immediately locked onto the object, firing a small burst of energy that reduced the scrap to a smoking pile of ash. Ethan's eyes widened in awe. "Well, that's effective," he said, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Before he could celebrate further, Vera spoke. "Ethan, multiple life forms detected nearby. They are approaching quickly." Ethan's heart sank. "How close?" "Less than 50 meters, Vera replied. "The noise from the test may have attracted them." Ethan grabbed his rod and positioned himself near the turret. His pulse quickened as he heard the familiar growls echoing through the corridors. The shadows shifted, and the creatures emerged, their glowing red eyes fixed on him. The turret sprang to life, locking onto the first creature and firing a burst of energy. The creature let out a shriek before collapsing. The second creature lunged, but the turret's sensors were faster, taking it down mid-leap. Ethan stood his ground, ready to defend himself if needed, but the turret's precision left little for him to do. Within moments, the threat was neutralized. The room fell silent once more, save for the faint hum of the turret. "System performance. Optimal," Vera said. "You have done well, Ethan." Ethan let out a shaky breath, his legs feeling weak. "Yeah, well, let's hope it's enough to keep me alive." As he looked at the smoking remains of the creatures, a sense of pride welled up in him. He had turned alien scraps into a functional defense system. For the first time, survival didn't feel like an impossible dream. It felt like something he could fight for, something he could win. Ethan Carter leaned back in the station's command chair, staring at the flickering holographic screen in front of him. He had spent the last 2 hours decoding encrypted files Vera had recovered from the station's damaged data core. What he was seeing didn't make sense, or maybe it made too much sense. "Are you sure this is accurate?" Ethan asked, his voice low. His hands gripped the armrests tightly, his knuckles white. Vera's holographic form flickered into view. "The data is intact. These records have not been altered. What you see is the truth." Ethan's stomach churned as he read the lines again. The station wasn't just an abandoned outpost. It had been part of a secret experiment conducted by the alien species that built it. The experiment involved genetic engineering, the creation of new life forms, including the monstrous creatures that now roamed its halls. "They created those things?" Ethan asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Correct," Vera replied. "The creatures were designed as bioweapons. However, they proved uncontrollable. The station's crew attempted to contain them, but the experiment failed catastrophically. The creatures overran the station, and the surviving personnel abandoned it." Ethan shook his head, trying to process the information. "And what about me? Why was I left here?" Vera's light dimmed slightly, as if hesitating. "You were not left here by accident. The humans who brought you here were aware of the station's history. They intended to use your skills to reactivate its systems and recover its technology." Ethan's heart sank. He had suspected betrayal, but hearing it confirmed was a different kind of pain. "So I was a pawn in their game. They never planned to come back for me." "That is correct," Vera said. "Your survival was not part of their plan." Ethan slammed his fist on the console, the loud thud echoing through the empty room. "Damn it. They used me, left me to die here." The anger burned in his chest, but beneath it was a growing determination. He had survived against the odds, repaired the station's critical systems, and even built defenses. He wasn't just some expendable engineer. He was more than they had bargained for. "Vera," Ethan said, his voice steady now, "how much of the station's original power can we restore?" "With your repairs, the station is operating at approximately 60% capacity," Vera replied. "However, some systems remain offline. The core weapon systems and long-range communications are still disabled." Ethan's mind raced. The station's files mentioned a central weapon, a powerful energy cannon designed to protect against external threats. If he could get it online, it would not only secure the station but also give him leverage. And long-range communications would allow him to send a message back to Earth, exposing the truth. "All right," Ethan said, standing up. "Show me what we need to do to bring those systems back online." Vera projected a new holographic map, highlighting key areas of the station. The main power conduit for the weapon system is damaged. Repairs will require access to the lower levels. Additionally, the communications array needs a new energy regulator, which can be fabricated in the engineering bay. Ethan nodded, already forming a plan. "Then that's what we'll do. But first, we need to deal with the creatures. They'll keep coming unless we find a way to stop them." "The creatures' behavior suggests they are drawn to energy signatures," Vera said. "It may be possible to lure them into a trap using a high-energy bait." Ethan's lips curled into a grim smile. "Good idea. We'll set a trap and take them out. After that, we finish the repairs." As he prepared to leave the command room, Vera spoke again. "Ethan, there is one more thing. The files contain records of other experiments conducted on this station. They suggest that some of the creatures may retain intelligence and memories of their creators." Ethan froze. "Are you saying they might recognize me as a threat?" "It is possible," Vera said. "Proceed with caution." Ethan took a deep breath, gripping his makeshift weapon tightly. "Caution hasn't gotten me this far, but I'll keep it in mind." As he stepped into the corridor, the station felt different. It was no longer just a place he needed to survive. It was a battlefield, a puzzle, and a chance to prove that even one human could make a difference. Ethan wasn't just going to survive. He was going to take control and make sure no one ever underestimated him again. Ethan Carter stood at the heart of the station's control room, the hum of repaired systems echoing around him. The holographic map displayed the station's layout, glowing red where hostile creatures gathered in increasing numbers. Ethan's jaw tightened as he glanced at the energy signature he had activated to lure them. "This is it, Vera," he muttered. "If this trap doesn't work, I won't get another chance." Vera's holographic form flickered beside him. "The energy bait is functioning as planned. The creatures are converging on the central reactor chamber." Ethan checked his equipment. His makeshift weapon, a combination of alien tech and human ingenuity, rested in his hands. He had modified it to deliver a powerful energy burst, but it had limited charges. His defenses were set, and the automated turrets he repaired were primed to fire. "All right," Ethan said, exhaling slowly. "Time to finish this." He left the control room, jogging through the dimly lit corridors. The distant sounds of the creatures, growls, screeches, and the heavy thuds of their movements, grew louder with each step. The air felt electric, charged with the tension of the coming battle. As Ethan reached the reactor chamber, he paused to survey his setup. The energy bait, a glowing orb emitting pulsating waves of power, hovered in the center of the room. Surrounding it were barriers, turrets, and explosive traps he had painstakingly placed. "Ethan," Vera's voice came through his earpiece. "The creatures will arrive in less than 3 minutes. Are you prepared?" Ethan adjusted his grip on his weapon. "Ready as I'll ever be." The first wave arrived sooner than expected. A massive creature, its scales glistening and claws gleaming, burst into the chamber. The turrets immediately locked on and fired. Energy blasts struck the creature, sending it sprawling to the ground. It twitched once and lay still. "One down," Ethan muttered. "Plenty more to go." More creatures poured in, their movements frenzied as they were drawn to the energy bait. The turrets worked relentlessly, cutting down the invaders, but the sheer number of them was overwhelming. One of the larger creatures barreled through a turret, smashing it to pieces before being taken out by a well-placed explosive trap. Ethan fired his weapon, the recoil vibrating up his arm. A beam of blue energy struck a creature mid-leap, disintegrating it instantly. Sweat dripped down his face as he moved to a new position, keeping himself out of sight while reloading. "Ethan, 2 turrets are offline," Vera reported. "The defenses will not hold much longer." "I just need a little more time," Ethan said, gritting his teeth. He activated another trap, a burst of fire engulfing a cluster of creatures. The air filled with the smell of burnt flesh and the echo of agonized shrieks. A sudden roar made Ethan spin around. A massive creature, twice the size of the others, lumbered into the chamber. Its red eyes locked onto him, and it let out a bone-chilling growl. "That's new," Ethan muttered. "Vera, any advice?" "The creature's energy readings are off the charts," Vera said. "It is likely the apex predator of its kind." Ethan didn't wait for further analysis. He fired at the creature, but the beam barely slowed it down. The turrets targeted it, their shots chipping away at its tough hide. The creature roared again and charged, smashing through barriers as if they were paper. "Come on, big guy," Ethan said, backing up toward his final trap. "Just a little closer." The creature lunged, its claws swiping inches from Ethan as he dove out of the way. It landed in the center of the chamber, right on top of the hidden explosives. Ethan hit the detonator, and the room shook with a deafening blast. Smoke and fire engulfed the creature. When the dust settled, the massive beast lay still, its body charred and lifeless. The remaining creatures, disoriented and leaderless, began retreating. The bait's energy signature faded, no longer holding their attention. Ethan collapsed against a wall, his chest heaving. "Is it over?" "The creatures are retreating," Vera confirmed. "You have successfully neutralized the threat." Relief washed over Ethan, but it was short-lived. The battle had taken its toll on the station's defenses, and he knew the fight wasn't entirely over. Still, for now, he had won. "Let's get the long-range communications online," Ethan said, pushing himself to his feet. "It's time to let the galaxy know what happened here." As he left the reactor chamber, his mind was already racing with plans. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was taking control, shaping his own fate. One step at a time. Ethan Carter leaned against the control panel in the station's communications room. Sweat still clung to his brow, and his muscles ached from the long battle, but a flicker of hope burned in his chest. The creatures were gone, defeated or driven off, and the station was finally his. Now, he had a chance to do what he had dreamed of since he first set foot on this alien outpost. Send a message to the galaxy. "Vera," Ethan said, his voice steady but tired. "How's the communications array looking?" Vera's holographic form appeared beside him, her glowing figure a comforting presence. "The array is operational. I have rerouted power from non-essential systems to ensure maximum signal strength. You are ready to transmit." Ethan nodded, glancing at the blinking console. His message was simple: expose the truth about the station and the experiments conducted there. The galaxy needed to know what had happened, and the people who had left him to die needed to be held accountable. "Begin transmission," Ethan said. The console lit up, and Ethan's voice filled the empty room as he recorded his message. "This is Ethan Carter, a human engineer stranded on an alien research station. The station was abandoned after a catastrophic experiment created hostile bioweapons. I survived against all odds, repaired the station, and neutralized the threat. This message is a warning. The station's creators, and those who abandoned me here, must answer for their actions. We cannot allow this kind of recklessness to continue." He paused, his fingers tightening around the edge of the console. "To anyone listening, I'm alive, and I'm taking control of this station. It's time to build something better, for all of us." The console beeped, confirming the transmission. Ethan let out a long breath, the weight on his shoulders lifting just slightly. "Message sent," Vera said. "The signal is strong. It will reach nearby systems within hours and farther colonies within days." Ethan allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Now let's talk about what comes next." The station was damaged but functional. Its systems, though ancient, were still advanced by human standards. With some effort, Ethan could transform it into something new, a safe haven, a hub for innovation, or even a fortress against future threats. The station's energy reserves are stable, Vara said. With your repairs, it can sustain life support and essential functions indefinitely. However, expansion will require additional resources. Ethan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Resources, huh? I guess it's time to see what's out there. The galaxy was vast, filled with opportunities and dangers. Ethan knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed allies, and he had just sent out a beacon that might attract them. Vara, can the station's sensors be upgraded to detect incoming ships? Ethan asked. Yes, Vara replied. I can guide you through the process. With enhanced sensors, we can monitor traffic and establish communications with approaching vessels. Ethan grinned. Perfect. Let's get started. As he worked, a strange sense of peace settled over him. For the first time since he had been left behind, he wasn't just surviving. He was building a future. The creatures were gone, the station was his, and the message was out. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was a life he could shape with his own hands. Hours passed as Ethan repaired the sensor array, guided by Vara's instructions. When the system finally came online, the station's screens lit up with a view of the surrounding space. Stars glittered against the black void, and for a moment, Ethan just stared, captivated by the beauty of it all. Incoming signal, Vara announced suddenly. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. All ready? Patch it through. The screen flickered, and a humanoid figure appeared. Their features were alien but not hostile. They had blue-tinted skin, elongated limbs, and a calm expression. This is Captain Rel of the vessel * Starbound. We received your transmission, the alien said. Your story is remarkable. We wish to help. Ethan's relief was palpable. He straightened, meeting the captain's gaze through the screen. Thank you, Captain Rel. I could use all the help I can get. We will approach cautiously, Rel said. Your message mentioned bioweapons. Is the station secure? Completely, Ethan assured them. I've neutralized the threat. The station is safe. Rel nodded. Understood. We'll be there within the hour. As the signal ended, Ethan leaned back in his chair, a smile spreading across his face. Help was on the way. The galaxy had heard his call, and now, a new chapter was beginning. Vara, Ethan said, his voice filled with determination. Let's get ready to welcome our guests. This station isn't just a relic anymore. It's the start of something new. And for the first time since he had been left behind, Ethan Carter felt truly alive.